Hey guys, welcome. Hat Tuesday number 13. Hat Tuesday number 13. Let me put up the welcome sign. Yeah, wow. Again, broken record. It just feels like I haven't done this in a long time, but it literally was just Friday. So, and again, I'll apologize for that. I rewatched that stream. Wasn't my best work. I apologize to any fans of The Irishman. Again, I just haven't really been sleeping that well. So, I think that's going to reflect it. I think if you do any of these things for a decent amount of time, they're going to be shows that you're like, all right, that went really well. And other shows, I'm like, all right, that didn't go as well as I wanted. But hey, you know what? I still had a lot of fun. Again, I got to that point. I was like doing that thing where I was like, all right, I'll eventually wake up and, everything's going to be fine. I drank the coffee. I did all the things that one does to try to get yourself in the right mindset and like prepared. But sometimes you have it, sometimes you don't, and that's like, it is what it is, it's like, I didn't want to just put that out there. But yeah, hopefully you guys are doing well. It is, we're really right on the cusp of Thanksgiving, right? Hopefully you guys are having a good holiday, lead up to Thanksgiving, right? We got Ian. How you doing, Ian? How are you? Hope all is well. Shout out to Ian, one of my faithful moderators. Hopefully all is well. I'm looking forward to seeing you and Paul over in the UK. I'm excited about that. I'm gonna book my accommodations today. So I've already made that like a personal mission that today I'm at least gonna have those accommodations done. So yeah, peachy, exactly, peachy keen. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Like I said, never been to London, never been to the UK period. This is going to be the first time, and I'm excited because I feel like it's long overdue. All the the history, as well as just the history period, right? I mean, it's like London is one of those towns that, well, it's just, again, just full of history, and I'm excited to see what it's all about. Sample some cuisine, and then, like I said, share a pint with some fine gentlemen. So, looking forward to that. If you're out there and you're somehow in the UK, or are going to be in there or can be there, then you're invited to come along. I just don't think, like I said, the more the merrier, right? So I put that out there before. We'll figure it out, right? It's like, I told Paul before that I'm planning to kind of stay at a hostel probably. That's usually something that I roll with, when I go to Europe. I've done it before. I was scared about it at first, but then once I did it, I was like, wow, this really is the way to go. And again, I've never stayed in a hostel here in the States, but I've heard good things as well. I mean, every hostel, just like every hotel, is a mixed bag, right? It's like I've seen some really great ones and some not so great ones, but right, that's where you kind of do your research, and then at some point you just pay your money, right? Like the old adage, you pays your money and you takes your chances, right? It's like, hey, it's fine. After all, it's only a week, as long as it has a roof, and it's not crawling with rats or something like that, something silly, like something out there, like what's the worst kind of place you could stay at, and that would kind of be up there. It's like, all right, no roof, infested, and whatever else, and maybe in the worst part of town. Those are kind of like those things that people think about when they're like, okay, what's the worst that could happen? It's like, well, that could happen. And even then, I'm like, it's kind of like that Stoic principle, right? Prepare for the worst, right? And I was just talking about Seneca today. Seneca, the philosopher, right? He talked about the fact that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. I love that quote only because I find it so true. We tend to build things up so negatively in our head sometimes. And, we are kind of like, I feel like that is the main reason why a lot of people don't travel elsewhere or don't just take a chance on anything, because they suffer more in imagination than in reality. And you have to be a little careful about that, because you could really self-select yourself out of a lot of great experiences by having that mentality, right? And it's kind of it doesn't mean that mentality doesn't have any purpose. It really does, right? Every behavior has a utility, and that behavior is a behavior that that kind of disposition is one that allows you to stay safe, right? Right. You avoid places and things like that. But sometimes we can take it overboard, right? Because of the media, because of whatever, what family tells us, yada, 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 right? So definitely do you, right? Somebody that I like to do what's called metacognition, right? Which is thinking about my own thinking. And we got my main man, Brad. Brad, how's it going, my friend?
Oh, it's going great. How are you doing, Luke?
Doing well. It's already been a little over 5 minutes. I already got into the Stoics, a little bit of Seneca, right? I talked about the famous Seneca quote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And I love that quote because it really does, right? And you guys already know that I'm a psychologist by training. So the idea of, right, I come from the functional school of psychology, which is in any given behavior, what motive, right, does it serve, or what purpose? And right, that inclination to kind of for us to suffer more in imagination than reality has a benefit, right? It kind of keeps us from going to those seedy places, right? Maybe keeps us from hanging around folks that you're like, okay, I don't trust these folks, and it can be a benefit. But the downside, it can also, like, if we're taken too far and allowed to get too far, we'll say, well, we're not traveling anywhere. We're not going to go to Europe. We're not going to go, and I talk to folks back home in Brooklyn all the time. It's like, oh, why do you want to go to Europe or London? It's dangerous out there. I'm like, what? It's like, it's like, it's just so funny, right? Because like the idea is, a fish that's still in water, right, doesn't know it's wet until it comes out of the water. And I feel like it's such a truism. And I try not to get engaged too much with especially with family and friends, because we have differences of opinion, and I understand that. And I talk to my mom all the time. My mom will tell me, I'll tell her I'm going this place. She said, "Oh, be careful, it's dangerous." I'm like, "Mom, you live in Brooklyn." Anyway, and not that there's anything wrong with that, right? Brooklyn's gotten a lot safer, but there's danger everywhere, right? I mean, you could go literally anywhere, and if you're not street smart, if you're not like careful, and I've come to the point where I'm just short of 50. And I'm able-bodied still. I'm going to do this traveling while I still can, because I used to be one of those folks, Brad, that would say, I'm going to travel when I'm retired, right? When I'm 60-something or 70-something, whatever your retirement age might be. And I'm like, well, how do I know I'm still going to be able to walk and travel at that time? I hope I am. I'd be nice, but I'm going to do it now.
Excellent point.
Yeah. So, Brad, what's going on with you, my friend?
Not much. I'm on Thanksgiving break this week, so
all right,
no work for me. So I
don't see Gracie there. I really had a great time watching Gracie on screen.
Well, I have a feeling she'll show up, or her brother will show up.
Yeah, understood. And I really do love your cat photos. I just get a real hoot out of seeing. Again, we only have one, but Oliver eats like he's a army. So, he's just me in cat form,
I have some feral cats. That I feed. I've actually semi-domesticated the mother, and so it's her and her kids and the dad show up. The dad is actually the next door neighbor's pet cat.
Yeah.
And so I feed them, and they're going to eat me out of house and home.
Ferals are like that. Oliver's a former feral, so I can understand.
I need to get the mother fixed. I need to get all of them fixed. Just haven't been able to.
Yeah, understood.
He's always
understood. And then just to add a comment here, Ian said, we're not allowed, just FYI, we're not allowed to carry pistols in London. FYI, Ian, we're also not allowed to carry pistols in general in Brooklyn, but I've seen them. I'm like, it's kind of, and I hate to say that. I don't mean that in a smirky way. I'm just saying that because, right, the laws don't work for the lawless is one of those things that, right, the lawless don't care about laws. Those are the ones I worry about. The people that are like obviously carrying legally and all that stuff. Those are folks I never worry about. I mean, obviously anybody can go nuts, but in general, it's those outlaws, right? And then Ian says, the professor's a great guest. I agree.
Oh, Ian, I appreciate it.
I agree. I think there's just something about, honestly, Brad, I think part of it, besides the fact that you're a wealth of knowledge, And we have, right, so Ian right there, Stephanie and Paul and several of our guests, we're fans of knowledge. I think that's one of those things where it's really hard to say who's not a fan of knowledge, right? It's like, it seems like almost a little bit of a trope, but the idea really is like, the whole point on this earth is to try to seek out truth, right? Or at least that's what we think could be truth. And obviously that's why we hold professors in such high regard, right? And I know there's a lot of things about being, I at one point was going to become a professor, right? Because I really wanted to have a job where my whole existence was to learn and to teach, right? And to kind of figure out truth.
Right.
And that's why I really love that there's still out there folks out there, because you meet all kinds, I mean, you already know, like when you hang out within research circles, you kind of know who's your brethren as well, kind of very in any walk of life. And then you what really does it for me is when I met other seekers of truth. I don't know. I'm just talking.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm a lifelong student. I'm always researching. I have, an insatiable curiosity about the world in general.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Really,
agreed. And yeah, I'm a big believer that everything's connected as well. You know what I mean? Like, I've always been more of an integrator, right, than a generator of new knowledge. Like, for me, I'm like, what knowledge exists out there? How could I integrate that, right? And I'll see analogies, right? That's always been my hook as a researcher was, well, I'm probably not going to teach you anything in isolation that's new, but this is how I feel everything is connected. And I've always got a kick out of that because I think there's value there as well. And then Ian says, Central London is well policed by armed gabbers. Police. I just love, again, I'm going to pick up some of these words. I've not heard the term gabbers before.
I heard that either.
Yeah.
And I watch a lot of British procedurals.
There you go. See, I mean, I just love, Ian has a lot of, I don't know if it's UKisms or Londonisms. Obviously, one thing that you might not know is Ian spent some time in Germany as well. And maybe some of that is part of, his arc, but he's also an avid reader, which, I wish I was,
Well, you just need to take time.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, and then Ian says from Romani. All right. Shout out to the Romani. Yeah. I'm
interpretation of that term that would explain why I maybe haven't heard it.
Yeah. And again, I just love, for me, the way, right? So anthropology, even though I'm a psychologist by training, sociology and anthropology have always been kind of these like side passions. Like when I met other sociologists and anthropologists, I always felt that kinship. Obviously, we're part of what's called the soft sciences. But for me, the study of the way people live, other cultures live, really is fascinating. And I think that's part of the hook of becoming a hat person, right? Is that, right? The idea is, how did folks live? How did hat people live when in the heyday of hats? When nobody really went out without hat. And that's the hook. That's one of the hooks for me.
Right.
So I agree 100%, Brad. Thanks for sharing your time here. I had a straw man, right? I always come in here with a straw man, right? And really the straw man for today was this bowler, right? It's the second Derby, the second Derby hat that I picked up. Also Stetson, also from the 1930s. This one I picked up in New York, which was very, very interesting because, I picked up several hats, right? Because I go back to New York, New Jersey area very often to see family. And I'm always checking out like local listings and figuring out, sometimes my family will share things that they find, like, hey, are you interested in this? And I came across this Derby and I'm like, one of those things, I have one already, but I want this one.
You can never have too many.
Exactly. Who knows, right? It's like, and I saw it, I'm like, okay, the pictures weren't great, but this already checked enough of the boxes for me that I said, okay, let me reach out to this gentleman and see if I can work out a deal And I did this several weeks before I knew I was going to be in New York. So finally, when we kind of worked out a number that we were both happy with, I said, okay, I'll be in New York next week. Hopefully, I told him, oh, Ian, you both look like English gentlemen from my youth and before. Thank you. I love that. I get that all the time in terms of every time I go out with a hat, almost always, like one of the most common comments I get is, you remind me of so either a character that they grew up watching or a family member. I really am touched by it. And you're both so hot by Sleepy Pajama. Well, thank you. I mean, I haven't checked my temperature, but yeah, I might be a little warm. So thank you. I appreciate that. We got a lot of physicians here, Brad.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been called hot before, so that's a new one.
Yeah, you know what? I'll take it. Like I said, I know how to take the all of a sudden, usually I get more of like some snarky comment. You're both so hot. Hey, I'll take it anytime. And Ian says, John Steed. I'm not familiar with that reference, Ian. You're going to have to explain that one, unless Brad knows.
Yeah, it's from the Avengers, an old spy show from the 60s in Britain.
Gotcha. Love it. Ian always surprises me.
I get a lot of comments too, like, you look like my grandpa or my uncle or something. They remember me. Them from years past wearing hats. I have to get that.
I think I catch a lot of folks about to say their grandpa, and then they'll and so that they won't like call me old. They'll say my uncle, actually.
Yeah.
You look like my uncle. So I love it. I think it really, and I've had this conversation with Paul, is that really wearing a hat really has that kind of transformative ability, right? It's essentially, like, in many ways, kind of like wearing a costume, right? For some people, wearing a hat's part of their costume, but they'll only do it out in Halloween.
Yeah.
And that's why I love being a hat person, because I feel like I get to wear a cool costume every day. You know what I mean? It's like being on Halloween every day. So I think that's one of those hooks for people that are like, if you're even semi-interested in hats, I say do it, because you'll be surprised how used to the comments and how used to the looks you get, right? Now, if you're somebody that really is uncomfortable getting stares, well, then I probably say don't wear a fine hat.
Right.
Because you're going to get some stares. Like, we're a subculture now. We're no longer like, it's no longer normative to go out there. And who knows, maybe we'll get back to that point at some point in the future. But for now, it's a subculture, and you're going to have to like deal with looks. But most of it's positive. And Ian says in German, a bowler is a melone, or a melon. Hopefully I pronounced that, or a melon.
Malone, I think.
Yeah, Malone. Yeah, that reminds me of Sam Malone. I wonder if there's a connection. You know what I mean? I'm a big fan of Cheers. So, yeah, I love that. Thank you, Ian. Again, Ian is, I cannot wait to hang out with this man. Because besides the fact that he's a hat person, he's also a pipe guy. And I feel like I need to hang out with more pipe people. I have one friend, pretty much my best bud, is a pipe smoker. And he made the transition to pipes from smoking cigarettes. And as a friend, I really appreciated that transformation, because if you go and compare a cigarette smoke to pipe smoke, like, the smell is a night and day difference.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, the fruit. Interesting, the fruit. So it's a melon equals melon, the fruit. Wow.
I
love that. Yeah.
Like wearing a candle on my head.
Brad, just out of curiosity, are you wearing the same bowler or the same derby from before? Is that the 1910s one?
No,
or is that a different one?
This is a different one. This is a 1940s Kavanaugh. So
yes.
So I thought, since you were wearing your Stetson today, I thought, well, I'll wear another one. Wasn't sure what I wanted to wear, but as much as I love Kavanaugh's, one of the things that I don't like about their hats from the 40s, their derbies from the 40s into the early 50s, is that their brims kind of go slightly up on the front and back. And I like a little bit of a dip, which, is an older style, but it's still a Kavanaugh. It's still a beautiful hat, so I'll wear it.
Yeah. Like I said, I've never met a Kavanaugh that I didn't like. Right. So, I mean, I have a couple of them, and honestly, there was one that I missed out. Kevin had a Hamburg. I believe I know the gentleman that bought it. I believe he's in Europe. But I really missed out on that. And I'm like, okay, I'm glad at least I know it went to a good home. It was I believe it was a Hamburg, a blue Hamburg that was a Kavanaugh. And I'm like, wow, literally the same day I was about to go message Kevin Gerber, he had sold it. And I'm like, all right, well, you know what? All fair, right? You snooze, you lose. But I know it went to a good home. But yeah, shout out to Kavanaugh. Again, we had a great discussion. I got a lot of good feedback, Brad, from that show we did with you, me, and Paul. So like I said, all I can do is keep hoping you gentlemen keep finding your way to the channel. Now that I know that your Tuesday's a better day for you, that's even better. It worked out nice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was hoping Robert would be on here. I saw a post he made, I think it was yesterday.
Yeah.
He was talking about the blocks for derbies and bowlers.
Yes.
And he mentioned the number 55 and the number 56.
Yeah.
And this is the first that I've heard numbers associated with those blocks. So I was really curious. I wanted to see, some examples and because I might start searching for them. The number 52, which is the most common one that I have, isn't proper. It's not right for the style of hat, and it's very hard to find a one for this size. What's interesting is I have a block that I got years ago that is the perfect shape. I'll have to go look now and see if it has a number, because I don't think it does.
Yeah.
But it's like a 7 3/4 or maybe an 8, a size 8.
Wow.
It's huge. And so I've never done anything with it, because I thought, well, what am I going to do with that? I'm sure that there are guys that would be interested in a hat that size.
Yeah. It's funny because I believe it was Brian Forbes that when he was on here, he mentioned that the biggest hat he's ever made, I believe the gentleman was well over an 8. I think he was closer to like 8.5 or something like that. And he was a gentleman from Puerto Rico. And he essentially had, hopefully, Brian, if you're listening to this, that I didn't butcher your story, but I think what Brian did is had him trace his head and send him a tracing of his head. And Brian was like flabbergasted about the size of this noggin. And I'm planning to go to Puerto Rico probably next month if I have everything works out. If you're out there, sir, I'd love to meet you and shake your hand, because that's a noggin. That is a noggin. 8.5. I mean, if that's accurate, that's ginormous.
Yeah. I can't imagine what it's like to have a head that big, or to be over 7 feet tall, trying to find shoes and stuff to fit. It's like
and you kind of know already, like if you watched, I mean, I always grew up watching wrestling. I watch basketball as well, but more of like my exposure to giants were always in the wrestling world. So obviously Andre the Giant was one of like the fascinating figures for lots of reasons. And then Spencer, I'm just gonna call you Spencer. I'm too high for this hat podcast. That is okay. I recommend, I have a fear of heights. So make sure that you come down and you don't hurt yourself wherever you're at. I mean, wherever tower you're on or whatnot, just be careful. Because, I don't want anything to happen to you guys. Thank you, Spencer.
You can always come back and watch this when you come back down. So.
Yeah, exactly. Just be safe. I hope you have some kind of a safety strap, right? Wherever you're high up on. So yeah, thank you, Spencer. I appreciate the comments. And then Ian, of course, Ian does emojis very well too. So I was saying, like, those kind of noggin, again, I'm talking about Andre the Giant. just the stories, right, of his prolific drinking.
Right.
But beyond that was the fact that the world, when you're that big, the world's not meant for you. And one thing in particular, a big story that always stuck with me is his problem dialing a rotary phone.
Oh.
Because his finger literally could never like get into a, so essentially he had to have friends call for him because it was a problem to be able to dial on a rotary phone. I thought that was like banana for fingers. So Ian says, wear a derby to protect your head. Exactly. If you're up there, Spencer, if you're high up there, make sure you have a derby on, because that might be, you might be better off with an actual proper helmet, but if not, hopefully you have a derby on so as to protect yourself. So shout out to Andre the Giant. Definitely interesting case story. So back to really the point of my straw man, which is this. This derby had a paint stain. I did not notice that when I was negotiating, but it wasn't really that problematic. I'll show you some photos of the derby, only because I think a lot of folks said they like to see photos. And for me, it's just taking this off. I'll expose my unkempt hair. And I think it's better to show you some photos. It's only about 7 or so. But I'll bring that up here. That way you guys get a chance to see. And, it's kind of a standard black derby. It's not really that.
I love that crown. That's the reverse taper on that style. I love that.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't know, Brad, do you know if that's something that was Stetson's calling card? I have no idea. I'm not informed enough to know if Stetson had their way of making their derbies that stood out from, let's say, a Kavanaugh.
No, that's the interesting thing about the American derbies anyway, is that the styles change over the decades, but every manufacturer offered their own version of it. So, I've seen Kavanaugh and Dobbs with that same block style. So everybody just kind of jumped on the same bandwagon.
Right.
I'm not sure who, is the one to innovate those changes. And the biggest difference you'll note over the decades is the crown height.
Yes. That's another question I had, and again, just to anybody that might know, but obviously we have the added professor here. In terms of crown heights, that's one thing that I've noticed more as I started getting really into more of the derbies, is the variation that there is amongst the crown height. And that's another fascinating. I just, at some point when you start looking at derbies, good morning, Josh. It's good to have you.
Morning.
Hope all is well, my friend. Shout out to Josh in Alabama. In terms of the derby, I started really noticing the differences in the crown height. And I'm like, okay, it's just one of those things, as you start getting a little bit deeper into the vintage game, you start noticing a lot more of these nuances that I think the general public, they're like, well, you've seen one, you've seen them all, right?
Right.
That's fascinating. I can't wait to start digging more into this. And I'm sure as I start collecting more, I feel like there's going to be more derbies and bowlers and just more hats in my hat journey. I'm just loving the fact that I'm learning a lot more, and I'm learning through you guys. That's the main hook. One of the main hooks, besides hanging out with you guys, I learn from all you guys. So I'm just loving this process. So I'll show you a next photo. Here's a kind of a side view. Again, kind of very similar to my other derby. But again, I just love, my favorite thing, honestly, Brad, was I'm trying to remember who you did the recent interview with. It was an hour long, and you were featured heavily throughout. And I want to say it was a BBC thing. I could be wrong. But you did an interview, and you talked about the derby. And the derby and bowler hat as kind of the egalitarian hat.
Yeah,
that's. I thought, wow, you hit the nail right on the head.
That's what I think of it as, the egalitarian, but I call it the world's first democratic hat.
Yeah,
and at least it was. I I think for a long time here in the United States, and I think to a certain extent in the UK as well. I'm
Yeah.
trying to remember. I think the what you were talking about was a video that I did for um, the Daily Mail.
Okay. Yes. Yes. That was
One
it.
of their video producers reached out to me and wanted to do a show um, as a pilot episode for a new series. And I don't know that I subscribed to that channel just to see, and I don't
Yeah.
think any more came out of it. So I don't know. Maybe it
Yeah.
was it was a bomb, but it was a fun interview.
I enjoyed the heck out of that show. I tell you, it was really good. I knew, so like from there, I was like, okay, I got to get Brad on this channel somehow, some way. And you know what? Dream big, right? It's like you dream big, you never know.
Yep.
Ian says, AI says crown height was typically 4 to 5 inches. Taller was considered more formal or vintage. Interesting. Interesting. That makes sense, right? The toppers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you still, even with toppers, you see the height difference. And that's another, right? I don't own a topper yet, but I will. I will, because I cannot think of much, obviously, you collect these things, and, obviously I did gangs in New York, and you saw the top hat prominently portrayed there. And then just the difference between a Wellington top hat and a stovepipe top hat.
Mhm.
I just love the fact, and then the fact that, right, and I mentioned this about Yobola hats, right? Yobola has this, what's called the squish hat. And it didn't dawn on me until like I explained it during our chat that was a nod probably to the toppers that used to be able to, you could squish them to put underneath a chair when you were in the theater.
The opera hats or the Gibbous hats.
Correct.
I may have pronounced Gibbous wrong.
No worries. Yeah. So I figured, okay, that obviously is connected. Now, again, I don't know enough about how those toppers were constructed to tell you that it's exactly the same. That was something where I invited the gentleman from Yobola Hats to come on to talk about his hats. He said he had his reasons, but he had to politely decline. No problem. Like I said, I know everybody's either busy, they got certain situations. It could also be, some people just don't like being on camera, and I respect that. But yeah, the squish. If you guys have a chance to go on Instagram, if you're not in my circle and you haven't seen that link that I shared, you look up Yobola Hats on Instagram. I believe it's Yobola Hats, and you get to see his model called the Squish. And wow, it's a piece of engineering. So I just love that stuff. Like for me, we talked about that, Brad, when you were on here last time. The mechanical hat is something that I feel like because of guys, right? Remember, guys love machines. We love to tinker, right? There's going to be a whole ecosystem. I imagine, again, I'm probably completely wrong, right? Just indulge me here. It's like, Luke, you're out of your mind. There's no way. But I envision a future of hat wearers where guys will be like, oh, I remember those hats. Do they do anything? Well, mine does. Mine's it's more complicated than any hat you ever see. And, because guys do that kind of stuff.
Right.
They'll brag about their machine, right? And again, no judgment to Porsche guys. I know a gentleman that's a big Porsche guy, and I understand the allure, right? Because I also know a lot of watch guys, and they're really big on complications, right? In the watch world, everybody knows that a quartz watch will tell way better time, and obviously a phone will tell way more accurate time than your watch. But that's not the allure of the automatic watch or the mechanical watch. The allure is the idea of a complicated machine that you essentially have to wind in many instances and upkeep. And I think that's very similar to the Porsche guys. Besides the fact that Porsches drive, if you're a sports fanatic, they corner really well. But BMW does as well. But those two machines, but BMWs and the Porsche guys, they really love their complicated machines, as opposed to a Toyota guy, right? Who's like, well, I have an appliance.
Yeah.
It's a toaster that never failed me, or rarely fails me. So I still get it from a machine standpoint, but at the same time, I'm like, I see those guys, like meaning I see the Porsche guys and the BMW guys and the watch guys really getting into hats once they become more mechanical.
We love our obsessions. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Shout out to my car guys, my watch guys, and just my playing machine guys, right? They're all were gun guys, right? Josh is a gun guy. I'm a gun guy. You know what I mean? We love these machines, and sometimes it's not about reliability, right? Like the reason why these things exist, because you talk to a lot of gun guys, and they'll say, "Well, why wouldn't you just buy a Glock? It's reliable." I'm like, it has fewer pieces. It's like, yes, the Glock would probably be the Toyota Corolla or the Toyota Camry of the gun world. But guys love complicated machines. And that's why you have all these other guns.
Yeah.
And then Ian says, my mechanical solid silver pocket watch gains 10 seconds in 24 hours. That is accurate enough. I got to hear you. Yeah, exactly. My Longines, this is a mechanical watch from 1951. This Longines, I have to wind it twice a day. And I didn't think, I was always a big automatic watch guy. But once I got this mechanical watch in my possession, I started seeing the allure of the mechanical watch. Like, yes, I have to do it twice a day for it to keep up time. But once I do that, it performs beautifully.
Right.
Again, how do you explain that to people that are just like, why not just own an Apple Watch? I can't. Just different strokes, right?
I get it. And you're talking about the Glock, and to me, the most beautiful, I think, firearm ever made is the 1873 Colt Single Action Army.
Yes.
And what's beautiful about it is its simplicity.
Yeah.
And so I think we can also appreciate the simple too.
Yeah, absolutely.
There seems to be an inherent beauty. I mean, if you were in a firefight, would you want the Glock or the Single Action Army? There's
right
a debate there, but I do like those older.
Yeah.
In that sense too. So.
Yeah, and obviously, there is also a fascination with obviously firearms that were used by military services, right? Beretta, obviously, with the M9. A lot of people, and again, as somebody that I'm a fan of the Beretta, big fan of the Beretta, and I could understand for people that really love Berettas why a Glock wouldn't do anything for them. Mm-hmm. It's just a different type of machine.
Right.
And if you get it, then you know why. And you don't have to be a fan of one or the other to get it. That's the thing I always talk about with hats. Just because I'm not big into Panama hats doesn't mean I can't look at a Panama hat and say, wow, what a beautiful hat.
Right. Exactly.
Like, it's cool. Yeah, I love it. I love that you love it. Yeah. And that's the way I mean, for me, that's the essence of being a true hat guy. Right? I could go and show you some of my more out there hats. And you're like, yep, it's not my style, Luke, but I'm glad you love it.
Yeah.
That's all.
That's right.
And it's all good. And Ian says, one wind with mine lasts 40 hours. That is tremendous. 40-hour power reserve. I'm assuming that's what you have as a power reserve. I have a Hamilton watch that has like an 80-hour power reserve. And I'm like, wow, I never really need to do anything with that watch. You do it once, and then pretty much if you wear it once a week, you're probably good.
Yeah.
So shout out to Hamilton. I do love me a Hamilton watch. I love the brand only because it's an American brand that ended up obviously being sold, right? It's owned by Swatch, the Swatch conglomerate, and they are a Swiss-owned conglomerate. But it has kind of both of those heritages, the American heritage as well as the Swiss heritage. And if you're into watches, you kind of know about the fascination with Swiss anything with watches. It's just, it is, right? You can't, I don't, I can't explain that other than history and horology, like all those things. It's always the history for me. And, shout out to all those. I mean, so many watches that I don't consider myself a humongous watch guy. I think I'm a watch guy, but not a kind that collects a lot of watches. So for me, I will always, it was always from my dad. And you guys heard that story, my dad got me into watches because I used to watch my dad prepare himself every day, and he always put on his watch before he left the house, always. And he's still like, he's retired. He's 86 years old. He's most of the time watching TV in a chair, but he always has a watch on, always.
Yeah.
And now it's usually a watch that I got him. You know what I mean? And it is what it is. Like, I can't, other than that, like, I think that's the tried and true story of anybody that collects, of something that reminds them of their dad or their uncle or their granddad. Like, we have that connection because we know it's like your first image of what a man was, it's probably either dad or your uncle or whoever your father figure was. Who knows? They might have been somebody that wasn't even family, that just took you under their wing and kind of said, you do it this way.
Right.
It's so touching. I don't know. I never get tired of it. Yeah, I'll show you that. This is the actual paint stain.
Oh my.
So you can see it's not very large. It kind of covers some of the felt underneath, as well as a little bit of the binding here. And I don't know. I'm a little torn about what I want to do about this, if I want to do anything about it. Because I don't know. If you guys have watched this channel for a decent amount of time, I almost never refurbish any hat that I own, because for me, I'm like, well, there's a story behind this. And I don't know what the story could have been. As simple as we stored it somewhere and paint fell on it, which is probably accurate.
Yeah.
But for me, I start thinking, oh man, it was just a big move. You guys know how I operate. If you guys seen this, right? I create stories, right? Because we're natural storytellers. If we can't explain something, we don't like leaving it unexplained. We will come up a story in our mind about how this happened. And I see some move happen here, maybe some kind of big, who knows, maybe a shop was opened and they were painting it, and something happened and then paint fell on it. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, for me, I created that in my mind, and I'm like, am I just being too cute with this?
No,
what do you think, Brad?
You're right. There's a story there. It's in such a strange place that I can't figure out.
Correct.
How it got there,
Yeah.
Unless maybe it splashed upward.
Or right, meaning everybody knows that if you ever painted a house, right? If you're a hat person and you paint your wall, I can imagine that maybe you did something, you got too close to the wall.
Right.
And that's how you could get maybe a stain like that on there. Meaning it wouldn't, like, I don't see this something as something that dripped down, although it's possible. For me, I'm thinking somebody wore this, they were painting their house, the paint was, the wall maybe was still wet, and they got too close with their hat and the brim touched the paint.
Right.
But it's not that, I'm not that overly bothered by it, but at the same time, enough to have this conversation.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm kind of putting it to you guys. I mean, what would you guys do?
I don't know. I'm kind of a mixed mind about this. The one thing about old derbies, bowlers, and silk top hats is that they use a silk binding and a silk thread, and those are so fragile at this age. I've seen the silk binding, for instance, just shred.
Correct.
I still have a friend in here that was in a play one year and wanted to know if I had a hat he could borrow, and I found a derby in his size, and he wore it, and it was in beautiful shape when I loaned it to him. When I got it back, the entire binding was frayed. I had no idea what he did, and I was so angry. I didn't say anything about it to him. Because there's nothing he could do. But that silk binding and the thread, of course, the thread easily splits. This is one of the worst problems with the old silk, and so that's why I would hesitate to do anything other than maybe try some naphtha, just soaking it. The other thing I would be concerned about is trying to remove that paint, at least from the felt part of it, anything you do to it might smear it and make it worse.
Right.
So,
Correct.
If it were mine, I think I would play and just kind of scrape my thumbnail against the paint to see if I could get some of it off.
Right.
It's it's a tough decision as to what you want to do anything with it.
Yeah, I've never really had a hat in this situation. Again, I have hats, and I've mentioned this all the time. They'll have like a ribbon that looks really like it's seen better days.
Right.
Because I will sometimes I will self-select myself out of a hat because, well, I have a lot of them, and I'm like, give me something to tell me I don't need to have this hat in my possession. But once it checks all the boxes, and I got it in my mind that I'm gonna own this hat, what I usually done up until this point, this is the only hat I've seriously considered doing something to, at least something a little bit more drastic in terms of refurbishing it, because again, I'm not opposed to going out there wearing this hat with a paint stain on it. I'm just not. But at the same time, like, all right, well, I don't know. It's a weird situation. And then Ian says Tipex. I'm not familiar with Tipex.
I'm not either, so it must be a UK brand.
Yeah. Maybe, Ian, if you are able to opine on what Tipex, I kind of assumed it was a chemical product or something.
You know chemicals in it, Ian?
I'm sorry?
I was asking Ian if he knows the chemicals in it.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, Ian.
Too.
Yeah, I'm interested in learning. I mean, again, regardless, it says here,
whiteout.
He thinks it might be whiteout.
Maybe it's whiteout. That's also
okay. Yeah, it could very well be whiteout. You're not wrong. I didn't even think of that. I just assumed just regular paint. Yeah, it very well could. And again, I'm sure somebody, right? I mean, guys are also really good about. I know there's guys out there because they do construction or they're really handy at home. They will look at this and say, "Yeah, that's whiteout, or it's this." I've not gotten to that point because this hasn't been in my possession that long. But it could very well be whiteout. In which case, I'm like, "What the heck was going on?" Really, I'm kind of thinking now, like, if it's whiteout, maybe they were writing, right? Maybe they were wearing a hat while writing
in their hand and went whoop.
Yeah.
I don't know. If it's whiteout, maybe that is easier to get out than paint.
Yeah. I wonder if water or steam could be a good starting point. So Josh says that 100-year-old Stetson that has yellow grease stain on it and adds to the character of the hat. I agree. Shout out to the Bondurants in the movie Lawless, because they really show how great a distressed hat could look on film. I thought that movie, you guys have not seen that movie, you can watch my stream, my Fedora Friday stream on, and I showed photos of the Bondurants and their distressed hats. I think it really is for those guys that really love the festival hats, or just a distressed hat, right? Regardless of how you term our artsy hat. If something really, it's like, especially for Jack Bondurant, because he had a distressed Homburg on, and it still looked regal. It still looked regal, even with the big hole on it in the front.
Yeah.
Goes tells you to show you the power of that style in that hat, that you could have a humongous hole on it, and it still looks good. Thank you, Josh. I appreciate that. And then Ian says or plaster from building. Correct. Plaster or paint, but I didn't think about whiteout. That could also be it. It could very well be it. Yeah. The more I look at it, the more I start thinking whiteout. And then Ian says Carl McCoy from the band Fields of the Nephilim wears great distressed hats.
Huh.
Wow. Yeah, I'm not familiar with him, but Ian's a musician. So Ian has also, besides having a wealth of knowledge about just about everything, music is also one of his domains. So shout out to Ian. Thank you, Ian. Thank you for sharing. I love your recommendations. And I have some music that I've listened to because of Ian. So keep those recommendations coming. Love that. and all you guys, anybody that's into music, I think, everybody always asks me about the pie that I wear, my pie chain. And I love the comments that I get because it's one of those things where I get, right, obviously I get people that tell me, are you Jewish? And I'm like, no, this is a mathematical symbol of pi. It's not chai. But hey, are you Jewish? You're like, hey, let's talk, unless you don't want to, right? But it always like, I had a gentleman at a thrift store that essentially glanced at my chain and then told me shalom. And I said, oh, well, shalom. And he was like, that's interesting. And then he was like, yeah. You didn't think I was Jewish? And I was like, no, I didn't know you were Jewish, but I mean, I know now, and that's great. That's awesome. And I was like, well, aren't, and obviously there's that pause. He's like, well, aren't you Jewish? I'm like, no. And then I was like, this is pi. And then he's like, and then the gentleman apologized to me. I said, it was nothing to apologize. I mean, I get this all the time.
Yeah.
I just think it's interesting to interact with the world, right? Because some people obviously recognize it as pie, and they'll tell me, have a great pie day or something like, well, hope you have a great pie day. And I talk about it. It's very much like a musical note to me because, right? So mathematics and music are some of the universal languages out there. Wow. And that's why I love the idea of pi is regardless of where you go, people know, even sometimes they get confused, what pi is because it's one of those universal languages. I mean, and that's why for me, and you guys know I get a little sappy sometimes, if we all can recognize that a pi or a musical note, it's harder, right? Like we all love music, we all love math. I mean, at least some of us do. Not everybody loves math, but music is one of those things, right? We talked about the universal language. We talked about, right, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, right? Right, the Wild Stallions were going to save the world, right, with their music. And there's something very poetic and very like, just, yeah, of course. If we're going to save this planet, it's probably because, some music is going to come out there or something's going to come out there that's like, hey, we're all in this together, right? Like, what are we fighting about? I don't know. I'm probably being too sappy and too idealistic.
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah. It's the universe. I'm a big believer in the universal experience, right? And that's why I like talking about my dad. I like talking about things that I feel are kind of universal. Even if you don't have a dad, even if you grew up never knowing your dad, you might have had somebody in your life, right? If you're a guy or a gal that you kind of treated as your dad, or maybe it was your granddad. You had somebody in there. That's why I talk about them because it's part of, for me, the universal experience.
Right.
So, yeah, exactly. So sorry for getting a little sappy on you guys. I tend to do that sometimes, but I can't help but think there might be kids that come across the stream. Obviously, Morgan is 19. I wouldn't call her a kid, but in many ways she is. And I love the fact that Morgan's out there, and I love seeing her journey, besides her hat journey, just her career journey, her life journey, because we all been there. We all were 19 at once. Gosh, I can't believe what some of the stupid things I did at 19. And you guys, everybody nods because I was stupid too. It's like, I think we all kind of were, I mean, obviously there's a spectrum, but we just remember stuff that I did at 19, I wouldn't do at 49 or even at 39. Because you're like, no, I know better. So you guys out there, like, and I listen to all those guys, if you're 19 or you're 9 years old, I will still listen to you because I've learned some stuff even from 9-year-olds. I had a great story about that too. Don't discount somebody because they got a 0 or a 1 in front of their age, or if they got a 7, 8, or 9 in front of their age.
Yeah.
Like it's not a good idea. Especially those guys that have 7, 8, and 9 in their age. You definitely want to listen to those folks because you don't get to that age without knowing a thing or two. Yeah. Like I'd be dumb. I'd be like fooling myself if I thought that I knew better just because, right? I'm not. I don't have that number in front of my age, So I'm gonna have a lot of fun with that if I ever do get a 7, 8, or 9. I was like, I know what you're thinking.
Same here. Yeah.
Yeah, you're talking about me, and you're right in front of me. I listen to what you're saying. Hopefully, I'll be able to listen. Hopefully my hearing won't betray me. But if I listen to somebody, they'll start talking about me while I'm still there. I'm going to call them out on it.
Right.
I was like, hey, I'm right here. I'm not dead. I'm not some artifact that just that you get to talk about. I'm still alive, and hopefully I'll still have a smile.
Sure you
anyway,
will.
I'll show some more photos of the inside of the hat. It was really good shape.
Oh wow!
So this one, not coincidentally, it also came from Boston. So you can see here, my other Stetson was from Copley Plaza in Boston, and this one is from Jordan Marsh Co. in Boston. So I thought that was interesting. I had no idea. I mean, Stetson's a pretty international brand, right? I mean, I was just surprised that the two Stetson bowlers from the 1930s just happened to be made for hat companies that were based in Boston. I thought that was kind of wild, to be honest.
That is a neat coincidence right there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you guys already know, like you've seen some of my early videos. I really, besides researching the brands and the hats, there's also the hat shops that they are associated with, because a lot of them, again, they're based in places like, that you're like, okay, I visited there. I didn't know there was a hat shop there. And they really are kind of a clue to towns of yesteryear, right? You go and I have a couple hats from a hat shop in Washington, D.C. called Raleigh Haberdasher. And I'm like, wow, there was this hat shop in D.C. I wonder when they would, they cease to exist.
Yeah.
And then you start going into that rabbit hole,
Right.
That's the vintage hat rabbit hole,
That's it exactly.
Yep. So, again, and then you start seeing ads. Another clue, like the gentleman on the Fedora Lounge that really research the advertisements. They'll go into the microfiche and into the archives of the advertisements for these hats and hat shops that existed. And I love it. I really do love it. So shout out, if you're one of those guys, sometimes I don't have enough time to dig up some of that stuff. I try, but all you guys on the Fedora Lounge that end up doing that, God bless you, because you really are doing a great service.
That's the best way to find the information too, is through those ads.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's just funny. It's just really cool to see how they tried to sell hats in a time where they had a lot of competition, right?
Yeah.
Like that's marketing is still marketing, right? And I get a real kick out of and if you're a car guy, you guys know that, right? Back in the day, how they used to market cars, especially cars to guys, because women weren't the ones buying cars. It was a guy. So they were like, are you man enough to drive this car? You're like sitting there, you're like, wow, they totally did that. They totally pulled that. You don't have the cojones to drive this kind of car. It really is wild, the kind of things that marketers would do to try to get you to make that purchase.
Yep.
It's amazing.
That's amazing. That's things that I love is the history of marketing.
Yes.
I hate marketing in the present day, just because I hate being bombarded by ads, but I love it when it's done well.
Yes. Yes.
In the history of marketing, that's one of the things that I research is how did they change the marketing of hats over the decades? Yeah. Especially getting into the early 20th century, because it really does start to change.
Yeah.
And, it becomes, like you said, more about social manipulation than anything else.
Yeah, because and we talk about it here all the time. I talk about the levers, right? The idea of if you're a good marketer, you know all about the idea of pulling certain levers, right? You're sitting there like, okay, what's the demographic that I'm trying to target? And then what's their lever? What are the levers that I can pull with this ad? And obviously those ads that I mentioned, they were like, okay, this is a guy, right? This is the man that that kind of, maybe his wife controls the money in the house, right? Maybe he's henpecked. I don't know. I create these stories in my head of how are these marketers going to try to make that sale? And they start attacking your self-esteem sometimes. And it's weird, But if you ever been to a mall, right? If I know malls are kind of going by the wayside. Everybody's been to a mall. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say everybody. But I know I've been to a mall, and you pass by those cosmetics ladies, and they'll look at you and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you go out like that?" And I'm like, "What?" They're like, "Yeah, your pores. You could put loose change inside your pores." And they do that because it works. Because I mean, let's be honest. A lot of it more works so with the women, but obviously they're gonna go after men too, and they'll look at you, and then you're like, if you have any inkling of self-doubt or some kind of weirdness about your appearance, they're gonna use that lever because they're like, "Oh my gosh, thank you. I don't know how much money I give you, but make me look better, please." And I gotta love that. I know it seems weird, right? They literally said that you look ugly, but it works.
Unfortunately, you're right.
Yeah, it freaking works. Anyway, shout out to those ladies again. I know a lot of people feel weird about that. They're like, "Literally, seriously, Luke, that's true?" I'm like, go to a mall. If you have a mall that has those kiosks, that has somebody in here, we have a big mall called Tyson's Corner Mall. It's probably the biggest mall, fanciest mall in our area. And they have them out there. And I've been approached several times. And I don't know how I feel about that. I think I've been approached less because of the hat, I think. But when I wasn't a hat guy, they'd be like, I'm somebody that had I had teenage acne. I have a lot of scarring on my face, right? And they're not opposed to go and reminding me of the scars on my face if they can sell me a product. They say, "You know what?
Yeah,
I got this. I got the perfect thing for that." I'm like, "For what?" "That thing that you have on your face." I'm like, "Thank you."
Yeah.
I think
with the hat, I think they realize you've got self-confidence, and
correct.
Maybe it isn't going to work.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think that's in terms of it. So if you don't like dealing with marketers, this is another good option.
Yep. But then you get the ones that use it as a way to approach you. It's like, "Hey, nice hat. Where'd you get it?" or something like that.
Yeah, and I don't mind. Like, so that kind of conversation, meaning if they're not trying to sell me something, I'm always down to engage in that conversation. Only because I always view it as somebody's curious enough to ask about it. I'm going to reward that by telling them what I know. And I don't know. I feel like people. I don't know. When I go out to a bar with my friends, I tend to get that. They'll be like, "So what's this hat? What's this hat stuff about?" And I'll always get, "You make good money doing that, like selling hats?" Because they'll automatically go to like, "I'm a hat seller," and I'm like, I wouldn't recommend it. You know what I mean? I wouldn't recommend going out there. Their whole industries have died because they couldn't sell enough hats.
Right.
Like, it's not something you do to go and make a killing. I mean, you can make some money, but it's harder than you think.
And it takes a while to build up to that point.
Yeah. And that's why I do love engaging with the hatters on here on this channel because, well, a lot, again, none of them are seriously trying to become Lock & Co. or Stetson, but they're trying to get some money and essentially scratch that itch. And I love the fact that itch exists. And obviously, Brad, you're one of them. You actually got to the point of making hats as well. But nobody goes into there expecting that they're going to be, the next Stetson or the next, Lock & Co. or Borsellino, right?
Right.
It's not realistic.
Not if they're wise. They, a good hatter realizes that they don't know everything and that they'll probably never know everything.
Correct.
And, just have to keep learning and pushing your craft forward. That's true. Any good craftsman.
Yeah. I believe Socrates got it right. All I know is that I don't know nothing. And if you have that attitude, then now you're never going to not try to gain new knowledge.
Yeah.
Right. And that's I really love that phrase. And again, who knows what he really meant by that? But the way I take that is, it keeps me going, right? This idea, the search for truth, the search for new knowledge, and the idea of questioning everything. It really is what revs my engine, so to speak.
Yeah.
So
I get that.
Yeah. I'll show you some more photos. Again, this is kind of like so you can see there's like this sweatband has some holes in it. It could have been, who knows? Maybe the gentleman could have completely got this from a thrift shop. I don't care. It didn't matter to me. I don't really care. Like sometimes I feel like they'll tell me, oh yeah, this belonged to my uncle or my granddad because maybe they expect me to care. Like I don't care where it came from. I want this hat. You know what I mean? Now, if it really did come from your uncle or your granddad, I mean, I'm not going to tell you you're a liar. But sometimes the hat you'll see, and I saw some holes in the hat, and it's possible that this was like stamped. Like he got it at a thrift store, and maybe the thrift store punched a hole in it. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Put a label to it or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, the gentleman mentioned that it would belong to his grandparents. So I'm not going to say he's a liar. That's not my thing. But yeah, I thought the holes were curious in the sweatband.
Yeah. I'm fascinated by that bow because red is a color you don't see that often in a sweatband.
Yes. I didn't even remember. I didn't even notice that until you pointed it out. Because I believe the other one was a white bow. One second. Let me grab that.
You often see white.
Grab that. Oh no, it's also a red bow. So this one's also, again, maybe it's a Boston thing. So this is the other 1930s bowler, and it also has a red bow. So the sweatband's different. Obviously, this is kind of not like I don't know, reddish brown. This is kind of a light brown.
Yeah.
So yeah, but otherwise,
that could be similar. Maybe Stetson used red to help distinguish theirs.
Yeah. But you're right about the bow in that a lot of the bows I see in vintage hats, they tend to be white or black. Red is not that often
used. Or a beige or a brown or something like that.
Yeah.
Color.
Yeah. Interesting observation. I love that.
Red be bold though. Well, that's one of the things I love looking at are the little nuances that you see in vintage hats that you don't necessarily see these days.
Right.
Like the pleating on the. I mean, you'll still see that pleating, but it's not done very often, and it's just a really elegant touch.
I agree. For me, admiring the craftsmanship in a lot of these vintage hats. Obviously, I'm not somebody that I have lots of non-vintage hats that I also admire the craftsmanship about. But there's something, and then that's why I really love when you talked about the Kavanaugh edge, right? It's like these little things that these hat manufacturers would do to differentiate themselves. Paul, when he was on here, he described, I'm trying to remember the company now, but they are in the UK and they have a little hook on the back that you can retract so that you can hang your hat on a hook. And I'm like, wow, that's, you start thinking about like, wow, there's got to be some reason why everybody's not doing that. Because it could be cost, it could be complicated, maybe it's more complicated. But when I saw him show that hat, I really started thinking like every hat should have that. It's just a retractable little cord, and I think it might have been made of metal or nylon, something like that. And you can retract it and then just hang your hat. And I'm like, that's genius.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm gonna get Paul to share that. Hope maybe he could snap some photos and share that in the group chat, or if he wants to come on here in a future episode and kind of just show that to the audience. I feel like something like that is good for other hatters to see, only because if it's not that complicated to do, that's a good way to make your product stand out.
Right.
And to say, hey, you know how everybody wants to hang, well, not everybody, but a lot of folks do hang their hats on a hook. I'm like, if you had a mechanism, because some folks said maybe you could use the bow to do that. Well, some people don't want to mess with their bow, right? And they're like, no, I'd rather have a hook that's made to hang your hat.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's see here. Somebody's really okay. I see. That's Toyota trying to get a hold of me to about my parts order. Sorry, Toyota. I'll call you soon. Yeah, so again, this is just another angle of that Stetson on the sweatband. Yeah, just a really good look. I mean, you guys already know how I feel about sweatbands. Like for me, a sweatband like this, that kind of that brownish red sweatband. Like, and you guys know how I geeked out when Morgan showed her Huffbud hat by Michael. That brownish red sweatband. Oh man, it's like when I saw this in the photos, I was like, I want this hat. Like, if only for this sweatband. I mean, it doesn't take much, but those little things, those little details that you notice about a hat, you're like, okay, take my money now, right? It's like, it's done. I'm done. This hat is mine, unless, you know, something goes wrong with the transactions. This hat's going to be mine.
That's a beautiful color.
Yeah, it's just, again, for me, and hopefully I don't sound weird, like when I see this color in a hat, especially when you have a contrasting color, like let's say a lighter color or just a nice deep black like this hat, and then obviously you see the contrast with the lining, the hat lining, this kind of sweatband, I feel, and I mentioned this about Morgan's hat, it almost looks like you want to eat this. It almost looks like candy to me. And I don't know how weird that is, right? Obviously, I'm not going to actually eat this, but it looks like it's good enough to eat. And that's the power of leather. I mean, at least a leather that looks like this to me.
Yeah.
And Ian says, the internet says that the bow could be in memorial to hatters who were poisoned by mercury. Stetson may have seen red as a warning about this too. Hey, I like that story. I mean, I don't know. That's a great. I would love if that's true. I love that. I don't know. You said the internet. I'm gonna just throw in AI. Sometimes AI does come up with good stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
I just feel like AI or the internet can be like that uncle that tells you that tall tale. Like, you know that your uncle's lying sometimes, and he's like out there telling us because he loves it's entertainment. And I'm just somebody that I like accuracy when I need to be accurate. But if you're gonna tell me a tall fish tale, as long as it's a good story, I'm okay. You got me. I'm bought in. You know, tell me a good tale. Yeah. I'll determine in my own mind. I won't say anything, but I'll determine in my own mind whether it's the truth or not. Either way, I'm going to be entertained, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's it for the photos. Let me remove this. Thank you guys for joining me, man. It's already been almost an hour and 15. Brad, unless there's something you want to talk about, I'll probably just close out the show.
I don't have anything today.
All right. Yeah. Wow. I like it. I'm trying to do my best. And again, for all you guys that really love the 3-hour shows and things like that, for me, I like to take a page out of the showbiz. You know, the idea of always leave them wanting more. I feel like a good hour plus, that way I can go about my day. I can keep doing my hat journey, my life journey, and then I can come back and talk to you guys, with some fresh material. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's the way I want to approach it. Yeah, I think it's a good tactic. And before we leave, I want to put out Brad's information here to make sure that you keep supporting Brad. Obviously, visit his website. Even if you're not a vintage nerd, you can still appreciate the content that he has on his website. Obviously, he's a member of the Fedora Lounge. He's on Facebook. And like I said, if you guys decide that you guys want Brad to make you a hat, maybe he could break out some of that equipment and he could make you a hat. Obviously, he may not do it because he had a bad experience. But I feel like Brad, when interacting with some of these fellow hatters, I have a sneaky suspicion that Brad's going to find his way back. I really do hope so. But even if he doesn't, I'm just happy that Brad is a member of this community, and I want you guys to support him. Ian, no, thank you as well, my friend. Josh, Spencer, hopefully Spencer's okay. Spencer was elevated. So hopefully he's okay. Shout out to you. Shout out to everybody that joined on this. So keep supporting Brad. If you can, support this channel. Remember, I'm at 70 subscribers. Yeah, I'm at 70 subscribers. Once I get to 100, I will give away this Knox custom hat. Again, it's not the prettiest hat I had in my possession, but it'll be yours for free. I might just ask you to cover shipping. Now, it has moth bites, but who knows? Maybe this is a good maybe it's a good first hat. It's a good maybe 100th hat. It could be maybe a good hat that you'd like to restore, or maybe it's a hat that you want to gift to somebody else. I don't care what you really want to do with it. If you win it, I will go and work with you to figure out what your wishes are with the hat. And so basically, once I get to 100 subscribers, I will go and randomly select somebody that posts a comment on the video. Hopefully, we'll have enough comments that it'll be worthwhile. And then I will do a video and announce the winner. So look forward to that. And again, even if you don't want to support me, right? Even if you don't want to support my good buddy Brad, I'm going to point you this way. I think that's where you're at in terms of the relationship to the screen. But even if you don't want to support my good buddy Brad, what you got to do, and this is a non-negotiable, right? It's non-negotiable. Just stay hatting, my friend. Have a great day. Ciao, everybody.
Ciao.